Welcome to My Irish Radio Music and Culture News, your connection to everything happening in the world of Irish music and culture. I'm Jamie Flanagan. Each episode will share the latest news from Ireland's vibrant music scene, from traditional and folk to rebel ballads, pub tunes, Celtic rock, and today's top Irish pop. We'll also bring you updates on festivals, cultural events, and people keeping Irish heritage alive around the world. And remember, My Irish Radio is more than just a station. It's your community, your soundtrack, your voice. You can listen 24/7 at myirishradio.com and through the links in the podcast description below. Here's the best part. You can be part of it. Host your very own show on My Irish Radio. Choose your playlist, share your stories, make My Irish Radio your Irish Radio. Let's get into what's happening this week in Irish music and culture.
Welcome in, everyone. We are thrilled you decided to spend some time with us today.
Absolutely.
If you are anything like me, you probably have this constant lingering hunger to discover something entirely new. Or maybe you just enjoy taking a familiar subject and, looking at it from a completely fresh angle.
Right, getting a different perspective on it.
Exactly. Well, today, you are in for a truly spectacular journey.
And I have to say, looking through these notes, it is an incredibly layered collection of updates. What we have here is far more than just a simple calendar of upcoming concerts or, a bulletin of historical digs.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission for you today is not just to read off a news ticker.
No, definitely not.
We are going to explore the literal and metaphorical heartbeat of Ireland right now. We are looking at how an incredibly vibrant culture manages this delicate, intricate balancing act.
It's a tough balance.
It is. On one hand, they are preserving a deep ancient history, and on the other, they are actively funding a highly dynamic, fiercely modern future. It's like a cultural tightrope walk, and the way it is playing out this week is completely gripping.
To put you right there in the moment with us, try to picture the physical landscape of Ireland as a reflection of this duality.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Imagine you are walking through the country this week. You might stroll past ancient, moss-covered stone ruins that have stood for centuries, and then you literally turn a single corner and find yourself walking straight into the warm, glowing lights of a lively, packed pub stage.
Wow, yeah.
Walk a few more blocks, and you are standing in a stark, brightly lit modern art gallery. That incredible spectrum, that whiplash between the ancient and the avant-garde, is the exact experience we are breaking down today.
I can vividly picture that. It perfectly sets the stage for where we need to start, which is the musical pulse of the nation.
The heartbeat.
Exactly, the heartbeat. And to understand that pulse, the source material begins with some really poignant industry news. The music world just saw the passing of the Pogues drummer Andrew Ranken at the age of 72.
A massive loss.
Huge. Now, anyone familiar with that band knows the absolute chaotic, beautiful, sprawling energy they brought to their performances. But what caught my eye in the notes is how the band themselves chose to honor him. They didn't just call him a great drummer.
No, they didn't.
They referred to him as their heartbeat.
What's fascinating here is the deliberate choice of that exact word. In a band that was internationally famous for its wild, unpredictable, and frenetic energy, the drummer has to be the anchor.
Right. He keeps it all together.
He is the stabilizing force that keeps the entire organism moving forward without falling apart. While Rankin's passing is a profound loss, that core concept of a central rhythm is something that clearly continues to echo throughout Ireland's current cultural scene.
It really does.
His legacy isn't an isolated chapter, it is part of an ongoing continuum.
And looking at the upcoming festivals in these notes, that continuum is incredibly loud right now. For example, Belfast was just officially confirmed as the host city for the 2027 Fleadh Cheoil Naharian.
That is massive news for them.
The notes flag this as a monumental win for the city. But for those listening who might not be deeply immersed in Irish traditional music, what does an event like the Fleadh actually look like on the ground?
That is a great question, because it is difficult to overstate the scale of the Fleadh Cheoil. If you are picturing a standard music festival in a closed-off park, you need to think much, much bigger.
Like citywide.
Beyond citywide, it is the absolute pinnacle of traditional Irish culture. When a city hosts the Fleadh, the entire municipality transforms into a global epicenter for traditional music.
Right.
We are talking about hundreds of thousands of visitors.
100,000. That's incredible.
It takes over everything. Every street corner, every pub, every public square becomes an impromptu stage for competitions, sessions, and performances. It brings a sweeping economic boost, certainly, but culturally, it cements the host city as a vital living hub for a tradition that has been passed down through generations.
That sounds completely immersive. But you don't even have to wait until 2027 to see that kind of community mobilization in the north.
No, it's happening right now.
The notes detail a packed schedule for the immediate St. Patrick's Day week. Belfast TradFest is running from March 13th through the 17th. And just down the road, the Walled City Music Festival in Derry is happening from March 12th to the 15th.
Talk about a packed calendar.
Right. I have to wonder, how does a region sustain so many multi-day festivals happening almost simultaneously?
It requires a profound level of community infrastructure. Notice the density of these dates. These are not single evening concerts. They are multi-day immersive experiences.
Back to back.
Exactly. To pull that off back to back, you need a vast network of dedicated musicians, technical crews, local organizers, and audiences who are hungry for the experience. It proves that the traditional music scene is not just surviving as some quaint tourist attraction. It is actively thriving and expanding its footprint.
It is definitely expanding, and the variety of the live scene right now is staggering. The notes highlight some specific gigs and new releases that show just how wide this spectrum is. You have a band called the Bionic Rats, celebrating 20 years with a special St. Patrick's Day weekend gig in Dublin.
20 years!
20 years of ska and reggae-influenced music. Then, sharing that exact same weekend, you have Fleadh Cheoil and Corcoil Oda performing at the prestigious National Concert Hall.
Which presents a brilliant contrast. You have a beloved independent ska band celebrating 2 decades of sweating it out in local Dublin venues, happening at the exact same time as prestigious, sweeping choral and traditional ensembles taking the stage at the national level.
It's 2 completely different worlds.
But they share the same weekend. It paints a picture of a society that refuses to be boxed into a single genre.
It really does. And that refusal to be boxed in extends straight into television and modern digital releases.
And the digital side is just as busy.
The legendary music show Other Voices is currently featuring performances from the English musician Miles Kane, alongside the aggressive post-punk sounds of a band called CHAL.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And on the independent release front, you have a group named Skustin dropping a new single with the incredibly evocative title, Dodgy Box Pyramid Scheme.
I love that title.
It's so good. Plus, the artist Mikich just announced her debut album, Lessons Learned, slated for spring 2026.
When you look at all those pieces together, it tells a very clear story. What is so compelling about Skustin dropping an indie track about a dodgy box right alongside ancient choral music and post-punk television performances is that it proves Irish culture is not trapped in amber.
It's alive.
It is fiercely modern and self-aware. Ancient heritage and razor-sharp contemporary artistry do not just exist side by side in Ireland. They actively feed off one another to create a remarkably healthy ecosystem.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that musical ecosystem we just talked about doesn't exist in a vacuum. It was built on centuries of history.
Deep, deep history.
And what is incredible about the news this week is that historians are literally pulling that foundational history out of the ground as we speak.
You're listening to My Irish Music and Culture News, brought to you by My Irish Radio, streaming the best in Irish and Celtic music all day, every day. From classic jigs and reels to the latest Irish rock and pub favorites, we celebrate the sound of Ireland worldwide. Want to be more than a listener? Be a host. Share your love for the Irish music by hosting your own show on My Irish Radio. It's easy to get started. Just send us an email, myirishradio@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can listen 24/7 at myirishradio.com. Make My Irish Radio your Irish radio.
We are shifting gears into some major heritage and archaeological discoveries that are honestly mind-blowing.
And this is exactly where that mental image of walking past the ancient stone ruins comes sharply into focus.
The source notes detail 2 major historical discoveries that just happened. First, a 17th century fort was unearthed in Sligo. They didn't just find a few stray coins. Researchers revealed over 1,000 artifacts at this single site.
Over 1,000. That is a massive haul.
And if that wasn't astonishing enough, over in Dublin, an excavation team discovered a highly rare Roman pot.
Now that is wild.
I have to pause here because, on the surface, finding a single pot might not sound like front-page news to everyone. Why does one Roman pot in Dublin matter so much?
To put that discovery into perspective for you, it is a bit like finding a 19th century American silver dollar buried deep inside an untouched tomb in ancient Egypt.
Really? It's that out of place.
It completely disrupts the accepted timeline. Remember, Ireland was never formally conquered by the Roman Empire. The borders of Roman Britannia stopped at the Irish Sea. So finding a rare Roman artifact buried in Dublin soil instantly complicates the historical narrative.
Because it forces historians to rethink how people were actually interacting back then.
Precisely. It forces us to ask entirely new questions. Who brought this pot here? Was it a smuggler moving goods under the radar?
Was it a gift?
Right. Was it an official diplomatic gift to a local chieftain? Or does it represent movement of people across borders that we previously thought were rigidly closed? It tells you that the ancient world was far more connected, fluid, and complex than a standard history textbook might suggest.
That makes so much sense.
And regarding the 1,000 artifacts in Sligo, that is an entirely different kind of historical disruption. That isn't about global trade. That is the intimate, daily reality of an entire 17th century community suddenly brought back to the surface. It is their commerce, their warfare, and their meals laid bare.
It makes history feel incredibly tactile. You can almost feel the clay of that pot or the weight of those 17th century tools. And speaking of tactile, tangible history, the notes bring up a completely different but equally powerful type of artifact.
The Kilmainham Gaol exhibition.
Yes, Kilmainham Gaol has just launched an exhibition featuring secret photos taken by Irish prisoners during the War of Independence. For listeners who might not be deeply familiar with Kilmainham Gaol, this wasn't just a standard lockup, was it?
Not at all. Kilmainham Gaol holds a heavy, grave significance in Irish history. This was the site where many leaders of the 1916 Easter Rising were executed.
So it carries a lot of weight.
It is a place synonymous with the most severe consequences of rebellion. So the act of smuggling a camera into the specific prison wasn't just a minor rule violation. It was a matter of severe risk, potentially life and death, or at the very least, brutal punishment.
That context makes those photographs exponentially more powerful. When you look at an ancient Roman pot or a tool from a Sligo fort, you are looking at items that were likely dropped, discarded, or lost completely by accident.
Yeah.
The people who owned them weren't trying to leave a message for us, but a secret photograph taken by a prisoner in Kilmainham Gaol.
That is an intentional, defiant act of documentation. That is a human being actively risking their safety to say, we were here, this is the reality of what we endured, and you cannot erase us. It is a conscious effort to record political and personal struggle for whoever might find the film later.
And the impulse to honor the people who lived through these intense historical struggles extends far beyond the borders of the island itself. The notes also highlight a global heritage effort happening right now. In Pennsylvania, in the United States, there are active efforts underway to honor Irish workers who were buried in a mass grave.
This raises an important question about how far a culture's memory extends. It demonstrates the vast reach of the Irish diaspora. The sacrifices, the labor, and the tragedies of those emigrant generations are still being uncovered and formally reckoned with today, thousands of miles away from where they were born.
I want to take a second to ask you, the listener, to think about these distinct historical remnants. What stands out to you when we compare them? You have the deeply personal, intentional, and highly dangerous secret prisoner photos.
The defiance in those is incredible.
You have the silent, unintentional residue of ancient global trade represented by the Roman pot. And you have a tragic, solemn marker of immigration and brutal labor in a Pennsylvania mass grave. They each capture entirely different dimensions of the human experience, yet they are all vital pieces of the exact same cultural puzzle.
It is a profound realization, and it highlights just how much painstaking effort, research, and dedication goes into uncovering who we are and where we came from.
Which actually leads us perfectly into the final and perhaps most crucial segment of our deep dive today. Because digging up thousand-year-old artifacts, preserving fragile secret photographs, organizing multi-day music festivals for hundreds of thousands of people, and recording debut albums, none of this happens by magic.
No, it certainly doesn't.
It requires massive infrastructure. It sounds great in theory to have a thriving culture, but funding art and heritage is incredibly expensive. How does a country actually justify that kind of budget when there are always other pressing economic needs?
That is the ultimate administrative challenge of any society. We are talking about the business and the actual tangible sustenance of culture. A nation has to decide what it values. The stark reality of what it takes to cultivate world-class talent was highlighted by some sad news from the Arts Council this week. The notes mention the passing of the acclaimed painter Richard Gorman, who was a member of Eos Dana.
Can you explain what Eos Dana is for those who might not be familiar with the term?
Certainly, Eos Dana is a uniquely Irish institution. It is an esteemed, state-supported affiliation of artists whose work has made an outstanding contribution to the arts in Ireland.
So it's a very high honor.
Membership is highly exclusive and peer-elected. But the crucial part of Eos Dana is that it provides a stipend, known as the Cnuas, to eligible members so they can devote their energies entirely to their art. Richard Gorman was a master of his craft, but his life and his membership in Eos Dana serve as a reminder that to reach that level of international acclaim, an artist needs time, space, and the financial ability to sustain themselves while they create.
You can't create masterpieces if you are working 3 jobs just to pay for groceries. Society has to support its living creators in the present so they can actually survive to become the legends of tomorrow.
Which is why the next policy update in these notes is so globally significant. The basic income for the arts scheme in Ireland has just been made permanent.
I saw that, and it struck me as incredibly rare. You don't see many countries implementing a permanent basic income, specifically targeted at artists and creative workers.
It is genuinely revolutionary. For centuries, society has romanticized the idea of the starving artist, the myth that suffering somehow produces better art. But the practical reality is that financial instability crushes creativity. It forces talented people out of the industry entirely.
They just can't afford to stay in it.
Exactly. By making the basic income for the arts permanent, the Irish government is fundamentally rewriting the working conditions for its cultural producers. It is a bold legislative declaration that art is not merely a hobby. It is recognized valuable labor that enriches the entire country, and therefore, the workers producing that art deserve a baseline of economic security.
Think about how that practically changes an artist's day-to-day life. If a painter, a writer, or musician knows their basic living expenses are covered, they have the freedom to take the creative risks that actually push the culture forward, rather than just producing what they think will sell quickly to pay the rent.
It changes the entire landscape of what can be created.
And it's clear Ireland isn't just funding this culture to keep it hidden away on the island. They are aggressively exporting it. Culture Ireland just announced over 1.6 million euros in funding for 192 different projects designed to showcase Irish arts worldwide.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how elegantly all the news from this week aligns. It forms a complete self-sustaining cycle. You have a profound reverence for the past, the careful excavation of Roman pots, the cataloging of 17th century forts, the preservation of defiant prisoner photos.
The roots of the culture.
Then you have the vibrant present-way rhythm, the Fleadh Cheoil, the local pub gigs, the new indie single releases. And finally, you have the modern structural mechanisms, the permanent income scheme, and the 1.6 million euros in global export funding that ensure the future of that rhythm. These financial and policy structures are the fertile soil required to grow the next Andrew Ranken or the next Richard Gorman. They ensure the cultural pulse never falters.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a remarkable amount of ground today. We started by honoring the loss of a musical pioneer and exploring the incredible multi-genre music scene that is currently exploding across Belfast, Dublin, and Derry.
From the Bionic Rats to traditional choral ensembles.
We dug deep into the earth to uncover 17th century artifacts in Sligo and a completely unexpected Roman pot in Dublin that disrupts our understanding of ancient trade. We reflected on the raw defiance of prisoners taking secret photos in Kilmainham Gaol and the solemn, global efforts to remember Irish laborers in a Pennsylvania mass grave.
Pieces of a massive puzzle.
And we tied all of those threads together with the groundbreaking reality that Ireland is making its basic income for the arts permanent and investing millions to share its culture with the globe.
And for you listening, this encapsulates what it truly means to be well-informed. It is never simply about memorizing the dates of a festival in Belfast or knowing exactly how many tools were pulled out of a trench in Sligo. It is about seeing the through line.
The connections between everything.
It is about understanding the intricate connection between the ancient history buried in the soil, the avant-garde art being created in the studios this very afternoon, and the pragmatic government policies that exist to protect and nurture both of them. It is one continuous living story of a society deciding what it values.
It really is an unbroken chain from the past, flowing straight into the future.
Which leaves us with a rather profound thought to consider as we wrap up today's discussion. We have spent a lot of time analyzing how ancient, everyday artifacts accidentally managed to survive for centuries, and how prisoners risked absolutely everything to intentionally document their lives for posterity. But today, we live in a very different era, an era where the arts are formally protected, permanently funded by the state, and globally exported.
A completely different paradigm.
So I want you to mull this over. What will be the Roman pots or the secret photos of today's Irish cultural scene? In 400 years, when future archaeologists and historians are digging through our physical ruins and our digital servers, what are the specific pieces of today's permanently funded art that will survive to tell them who we really were?
Wow. That is a heavy, fascinating thought to leave on. What exact pieces of today's culture will speak for us centuries from now? Thank you so much for exploring that complex cycle with us. We appreciate your time, your curiosity, and we hope you walk away feeling just a little more connected to the broader pulse of history and art. Until next time, keep digging, keep listening, and take care.
That's it for this episode of My Irish Radio, Music and Culture News. Thanks for joining us. And remember, you can hear the best in Irish and Celtic music 24 hours a day at myirishradio.com. If you ever dreamed of sharing your favorite tunes and stories, now's your chance. Become one of the hosts. Host your own show right here on My Irish Radio. Just send us an email. It's easy as that. myirishradio@gmail.com. Until next time, it's Jamie Flanagan. Keep the music playing and keep Ireland in your heart.